Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Thursday Therapy in the new year of 2022. My name is Carlos Bing.
And I am Seneca Bing. Welcome everyone to 2022. So, for those of you who are joining us for the first time ever this evening, the purpose of these conversations that we have on the third Thursday is really to create or provide a space for healthy dialogue around mental health and to provide strategies to nurture our mind, body, and spirits. So we are really, really excited to have great people that join us every month to give us some tips and some tools, some strategies to help support our mental health and well-being. And tonight is no exception. We have a great duo you will get to meet here a little later who will definitely bless you with some great information around journaling and the benefits of journaling, and also providing a good mental space with yoga and breathing and those things that we need to do to get ourselves into a healthy place.
Yes, yes, yes. And for those of you that joined us for our watch night service back on December 31st and into January 1st of 2022, one of the things that I remember mentioning to the group when we talked about like kind of our goals for 22 was maintaining individual peace and being able to control what you can control in your space. And so one of the benefits of tonight is really that, if people take advantage of these tools that are going to be provided, this is an opportunity for you to take advantage of learning and being able to apply these things to your life, which can then give you some of that peace that you're looking for. Not saying that the situations will not happen, because stuff is going to happen, but in the midst of that, having these tools can help you get through those situations a whole lot better than if you didn't have them up front. So, yeah, so we're excited about this opportunity. So,
We are.
yeah.
And we just invite you. So if you have any questions, you have comments, you have some strategies of your own that you use, we invite you to put those in the chat because we in this space learn from one another. So we are excited to hear if there are some things that help you with your mental health.
Great point. Because, we're going to give a couple of suggestions, but it's not a one size fits all.
Right.
Some of these things you might like, some of them you won't like, and you may have some ideas. So, yeah, feel free to drop those in the chat. For now, I think, is it video time?
I think it's video time.
Okay. So we had this video we want to show you. I think it's probably about a 4 or 5 minute long video. And it's the value of journaling for self-care and mental health. And then after the video, we'll share some thoughts on that about what we're going to watch. So, Mike, if you wouldn't mind playing the video.
Taking care of yourself sometimes takes a back seat. And here to help us create a space in our life for self-care in today's CI Health is Dr. Robin Gopin. Robin, we're so glad you're back.
Thank you.
Okay, so last time we were here, we visited on Zoom, kind of like when the pandemic was still in the early stages, and you wrote the self-care prescription.
Yes.
Tell me about this before we get into your latest book.
Yeah, so the self-care prescription is all about helping individuals learn how to take better care of themselves and how to prioritize themselves holistically. So sometimes when we think about self-care, about physical self-care, we know we need to move our bodies and we need to eat, right, nutritious foods, but that's only one aspect of who you are. And so the self-care prescription goes into 6 different areas of your life where you can implement more self-care.
And a lot of times people feel like self-care, it's like a luxury. It's not really something that you need to manage and take care of. But you are encouraging people, you have to take that time for yourself.
You have to take the time for yourself, right? Because if we're not good, we can't be any good to anyone else, right? And so we are working, a lot of us are pouring into families, and when you're doing all of those things, like if you're not your best self, like you're giving all of those things kind of half effort, and it's not the best version of you. And so self-care really does help you show up in a way that you want to show up for your relationships, for your work, all of the things that you do in your life.
Yeah, and self-care can look like many different things.
Yeah.
Like it can come in many different forms.
Exactly.
Whether it's a massage or, going and get your nails done or just going for a walk. But you're encouraging people to journal. So tell me about the self-care prescription journal.
Yeah, so the journal really is all about understanding what your specific needs are. I'm a big proponent that self-care is not a one-size-fits-all thing. So what you do for self-care is going to look maybe different than what I need to do for self-care. And so the journal is really about quieting the outside noise, taking time to really check in with yourself and say, how am I really doing, right? Because typically when people ask us how we're doing, we give the
generic
answer of I'm fine, but really like, how am I really doing, and what areas of my life could I be taking better care of myself? And so with journaling, it really gives you that time for introspection to see what do I need, so that then when I develop a self-care plan for myself, I know how to take care of myself in ways that are going to be sustaining and that are going to like truly nourish me, right? Because we can go get our nails done, and that's a great version of self-care, but sometimes we need deeper self-care, right? We need to take care of ourselves maybe on a spiritual level, and we don't know that unless we take the time to check in, and journaling is a great way to help us check in with ourselves.
You just brought up something that made me think here. When you have to dig deep, that's not always fun. Some people don't enjoy that, but it's because it's hard.
Yes.
And we don't like doing hard things.
But that's the truth about self-care, right? Sometimes it is very fun and it's relaxing and it's joyful, but other times, like sometimes self-care can look like a good cry. Sometimes you just need to cry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you. Mental health in the Black community, is that different than it would be for the white community? How is that? Is journaling, just as good for everyone?
Everyone. Journaling can benefit everyone, right? Because it's really important for us to understand who we are, right, and what we need. And a lot of times, particularly in the Black community, there's a lot of information coming at us about who we are, and maybe some information out there myths about us being like inferior to other people. And so journaling really does help you reconnect with like the truth of who you are, the truth of your value, and then it gives you the motivation to invest in yourself through self-care.
Yeah, and if people are interested and they want to learn more, they want to connect with you, maybe give journaling a try.
Yes.
What's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so this is available everywhere books are sold, as well as Amazon, my website, www.robingopin.com, where you can find more information. But it's really about taking better care of ourselves so we can show up for the communities and the people that we care about.
Yeah, and the pandemic has definitely presented a challenge in that area and made you maybe do some reflection on how you can be better and do better for yourself, so you can be better for your family. So, Robin, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
I love this concept. If you need any more information, you want to learn more about how you can connect with Dr. Gobin here and check out her journal, we'll connect you at ciliving.tv.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, that video, there were several points I pulled from it. I think, too, that I want to highlight is the point that she made that, holistic care. Sometimes we think about taking care of, going to the doctor, which is very important. Go there annually. Go to see your doctor once a year. Making sure they eat right. That's important. But the spiritual, the eating, the spiritual self-care, just making sure you're doing the holistic, making sure you're covering the entire base is so incredibly important. The other point that she brought up was this whole concept of some people think that self-care is a luxury. I thought that was funny because, right, like you can't take care of other people if you're not right. And I remember hearing Reverend Frank Lane and Sister Bonnie when they were doing their thing on Sunday. He was saying like it's important to be selfish. And I know in my practice, a lot of my clients are struggling about this idea of being selfish, and they want to give to other people, but not to themselves. And I've been telling them up and down, you have got to take care of yourself, because if you wipe yourself out, they're going to find someone else to work with to get what they need. So make sure you're getting what you need. I could ramble all night. Go ahead, babe. What are you thinking?
So, yes, this topic, the whole video was good, but one of the things she talked about was when you are journaling, it is hard to be reflective and be introspective, and it is. And so really being able to tackle what you may be trying to avoid, through journaling, it's critically important, because as we continue to suppress these things, there are other things internally that start to happen to us. And so if you haven't been in a space where you will sit down in quiet and really be reflective and think about those things that are happening, because you're scared, I just encourage you to take a moment to start that, and start small. You may sit down for 5 minutes at first, because it is very uncomfortable sometimes to start these things. But as she said, sometimes you need a good cry. It is okay to cry. There's no problem with crying, because it's through those tears that you start to learn things about yourself. You start to put your situation in perspective. And so, again, I would encourage you, if you have not started, just writing and journaling. I was thinking about this weight loss journey, right? When we're thinking about weight loss, I had to have a food diary. I didn't want to do that. I did not want to journal about what I was eating, because I didn't want to face what I was eating, right? But the reality is, once I did, I was able to make better choices about what I was eating. And spiritually, when we start to journal about those things that are happening, you start to make better choices about who you are, what you're doing, how you're showing up for those around you. And there's this theory about self-care versus community care. And you talked about it. Self-care, sometimes people think it's a luxury. And I will definitely say there are moments where, if you've gone through something, you may not know what you need. And so you do need that community to rally around you and to be there. But at a certain point, you do have to start being selfish, as you said, and start to do things for you. I remember as a new mom, I would just go to the grocery store and walk up and down every aisle, because it was the minute I had to myself, right? And so I took that little minute to walk up and down the grocery aisle. So he might have not known why I was gone so long, but that's what I was doing. All right. So we are so excited to have our mother and daughter duo. So I want to just talk to you about Miss Janet Lynn Boswell and Gabrielle A. Hill are here to share a time of community while guiding us through some breath work. So we'll do a little breath work, and we will also discuss the benefits of journaling and just about who they are and how this all came to be. It is incredible for a mother and daughter to do this work together, to work on the community around them. So welcome, welcome, welcome. We are happy to have you. And we just want you to take a moment. We'll ask Miss Janet Lynn Boswell first, and then Miss Gabrielle A. Hill. I like saying your names. But we will ask you to introduce yourself and to tell us who you are and a little bit about your background.
Thank you. So happy to be here. Really appreciate you guys. And I love the comments that you gave on the video, by the way. But let me introduce myself first, and then I will comment on that. So I am a certified trauma recovery coach, but I am also a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. I say survivor slash thriver, right? Because in Christ we have the victory. But I will say that healing is a process, and deliverance is a process. And how I decided, when I was in counseling almost 20 years ago, was when I realized that God had given me a counseling gift. I knew I had a teaching gift, but I didn't realize that I had a counseling gift. And so then I had to make the decision, do I go back to school to become a coach? And I decided to become a trauma recovery coach because there's a different model that we use, and it's more of a peer model as opposed to the traditional medical model, which means that I can share my testimony with my clients, and they can get the sense that I relate to them, and I can relate to where they are, what they're going through, what they're feeling. And in the traditional medical model, you cannot do that. So that's how I chose that. Journaling. For me, I believe that I'm so glad she said that about the spiritual aspect of journaling, because I truly believe that God gave us journaling. To me, I consider journaling as a form of prayer. So when I am journaling, I am talking to my Father and I am pouring out my heart to God. So I'll just stop right there and we can talk some more about it. But that's how I feel about journaling.
Wow. Thank you. And thank you for sharing your story in the beginning of your testimony, because that is powerful. And I know that people will take from that. Miss Gabrielle A. Hill.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you again, Carlos and Seneca, for having us today. It's like family. So I'm excited. Um, I am Gabrielle A. Hill. I started this journey not on purpose. Um, I'm from Toledo, born and raised and educated. And so when I moved to Columbus from college, I was working in nonprofit in the schools. And step one of what I said I would never do was become a school counselor. Insert meeting Seneca. And she said, like a school counselor to me. And I said, interesting. Uh, that's why you don't tell God what you're not going to do. But fast forward. So I am a licensed school counselor. But through that work, I started to, in the name of self-care, start taking yoga classes, because I had a friend kind of ask me like, okay, well, what are you doing for you? And I was working hard and I was just like, I don't know. So they just invited me to come to a class, and I realized like it was the first time that I was able to see like an area that was blocked off for me. Like for some reason in my adulthood, I needed to see a physical space um, where it was like my space, no matter what I was going through or what I was doing, no one else was interested. They were trying to figure out their own stuff. So it was very like liberating to me in a way. So I went to a yoga class, started coming regularly, and you know, over time I was like, hmm, maybe they need some help with a block. Maybe I could pass them a little. Because before I was like, I do yoga to ignore people. This is my time for me. And then over time, I wanted to kind of help people. And so another person who I practiced with was like, well, aren't you a teacher yet? Or when are you going to become a teacher? It's like, I'm not becoming a yoga teacher. Fast forward, I am now a yoga teacher. So again, you don't tell God what you're not going to do. But I arrived here following just, again, God's path for my life, and what it has given me is more than I ever thought. And going back to the video, like she was saying, self-care is not a luxury. This is part of my survival toolkit. And I'm naturally someone who bounces around and is just always doing something. So this is really my time to calm down, sit down, and let God speak to me. So I did not plan on arriving here, but I think that makes the journey that much more beautiful.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is. I want to talk. So
I know, and I'm supposed to have the next question. So you go
Okay.
ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. No,
No.
I know you have something.
No, I was going to say it is definitely a spiritual journey when you are doing yoga, because I had to rely on God to help me with the downward dog and not be dizzy. Okay.
That's what I didn't want to say that. That's what I was sitting thinking. Like, man, that kind of painful.
Yes.
That's why you do what feels good. You
Yes.
honor what feels good.
No, I definitely appreciate that. Yeah, it's hearing your story. And so again, thank you both for sharing your story and why you got into this work that you're doing. A lot of times folks get into these careers and they're not happy. It sounds like, based on your experiences, this is something that you were meant to do, that God led you to do. And so really, really just love hearing your story and why you do what you do. Can you both talk a little bit about just like describe your working relationship. I mean, obviously mom and daughter, but like how do y'all as mom and daughter work together? Can you describe your working relationship for us?
Mhm.
What you want to
It's so
say, Mom? No, it's fine.
natural. I don't know. It's so natural. We know each other so well. Um, a lot of times I'll say, we're the same person, but we're so different also. Um, I don't know, Gab, what would you say? I mean, I will say that I consciously, from the time she was born, I made it my mission for us to have a close relationship because I didn't have that. And so it's something that I, was intentional about. And even going to get counseling, initially I did that primarily for her because I wanted to work through my issues so that I wouldn't pass them down to her. So,
Yeah, no,
That's good.
that was. I mean, I think we're a team. That's who we've always been, and it was actually kind of funny to when she first started coming to my yoga classes because I feel like I'm. You want me to lead and guide? Okay, I can guide my mama in something like okay. And just to to hear her kind of like talk about the benefits that I was giving because I always think about all that she sacrificed and done for me. So it was nice to have a space where I feel like I could give back. Um, but yeah, I think we work together well. We, sometimes we looking at each other like, why you say that? Or she's my editor. Fix that sentence. Put that punctuation. And I'm just trying to hurry up and get it done. But we always arrive at something beautiful, and I'm grateful. But I do think a lot of that is just who we've always been. So it's very natural.
hmm hmm
Yeah, I
very
love it. I
natural.
love you talking about how natural it is for you to work together. And you really answered and alluded to this, but I'll ask it. So, what made you want to work together? So, like, decide we are going to do these things together.
I think that we both have a mission and a passion to help God's people and to just help people become whole and
Mhm.
become who they were meant to be. And so our skill set and our giftings, they just work well together. And Gabrielle was really the mastermind behind this and seeing how we could work well and how things could fit well together.
Mm.
What do you say, Gab?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I was gonna plan to do this event that we're doing Saturday, like in a year, and my mom and my cousin are always like, "What? No, do it now." I'm like, "Oh, okay, we can do this. We can figure it out." And Seneca, you are there to encourage too. So I just wanted to work again, kind of like alongside my mom. She's the person that you see here today is because of Janet. Okay, let's be clear. But so in to be able to give back and then to do it alongside with her,
Mhm.
it's just something I've always wanted to do. And I think for people who have complicated relationships with parents, and I'm also someone who does, it's, I don't know, I feel like that's something cool to see for people to see,
Yes.
and,
Yes.
we have our situations or whatever, but I feel like we're always able to come together and work through them. And if we can be an example to other people for that, I
Yes.
think that's the ultimate goal too.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And Gabby, we're going to talk a little bit about your program on Saturday, so we're not going to forget to plug that later on. And then,
Oh, okay.
Janet, I have a question for you, but before we ask you that question, we have a video that we want to show really quickly.
Mhm.
And then I'll ask you the question. So, Mike, if you wouldn't mind playing the second video, and then we'll come back.
that's why it came to me like this, that words, for me anyway, are water. And there are many benefits to writing through trauma. I found a connection between self-compassion and self-care. How able are we to truly act in loving ways and have even loving thoughts toward ourselves? And this right here, doing this right here, in this workshop right here, this is me reclaiming who I really am. This is a part of me reclaiming, and this is what I was born to do.
Very cool. Very cool. It's amazing when I think about journaling and when I talk to folks in my practice about trying that, and how some people will look at me kind of crazy, like, why do I want to write about what I'm dealing with? And I can go on and on about that piece of it, but this is your question, Miss Janet, so I'm going to let you go on and on about it. What are the benefits of journaling?
Okay, so clinically, I'll do clinically, and then I'll say for me personally. Clinically, they have found that journaling actually triggers a certain area of our brains, and that's where we have stored memories, and that kind of thing is the part of the brain that even deals with comprehension. And handwriting is has to do with that, with comprehension. So I do sometimes pick up my phone and type something in, but generally I keep a journal with me everywhere I go. I keep a journal in my glove box. I keep a journal, on if I'm working outside of the home, I have a journal on my desk, and I have a journal with me at home. So, um, but clinically, and also the other thing clinically is, if we are keeping all of these emotions and these things that we're feeling, and even memories and things, if we're keeping it all inside, suppressing it, repressing it, stuffing it down, that is going to, that in itself, they found, is stressful. It causes sort of a low level grade of stress. And a psychologist named James Pennebaker is one of the leading experts on that. And what he says is that after you walk around with a low level of stress for so long, it's going to begin to break down your immune system. So, we are body, soul, and spirit. It's all connected. You cannot separate it. So that's the clinical side of it. As far as spiritual and emotional, I really understand people who say, why would I want to write about something that I've been running from my whole life? Because I've always been a writer. I've always journaled, but all of the childhood sexual abuse that happened to me, 99% of it was repressed. I had it blocked. It was just blocked. So I would journal, but never tap into that aspect of it. So what I say to people is, you don't have to go deep initially. You can start out with, I told someone recently, and they said, well, I just feel like I don't know what to write. Then I said, write that. Write down, I don't know what to write. And then write, I don't know what the big deal is about journaling. Because once you start writing, it's amazing the way God has designed us. You'll start unlocking some things and some areas, and things will start coming up that you didn't even know were there, and you weren't even planning to write about. So as I said, to me, journaling is a form of prayer. And God uses it to help me examine the core of who I am. And I ask God questions in my journal, and then I write down the answers. So it's really on a clinical, spiritual, and emotional and mental, all aspects of it. I see benefits in it.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yes.
That is great.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. I'm thinking about the process of, and again, you sharing your testimony and being able to talk about what you have gone through and the benefits, right, of journaling, that experience, but about other things. And I love that you said that God will unlock things once you start writing, because there are times where you sit down and you're like, I mean, there was a lot that happened today, but I can't really think about. I don't know. And then you write one sentence, and then there's a page later you've been writing, and it does feel like such a release once you have gotten those things out. So, and one of the other
Yeah,
things we have talked
exactly.
to people about, yes, and if you are feeling that pain or you are having that, then write about it and ball it up. Write about it and ball it up and throw it away. Throw those things away that are inside you.
Mhm.
So again, you are the panel. I'm supposed to be asking questions. Okay. So
No, I love that. I do because I say that too. Get it up and out of you. That's
Mm-hmm.
yes.
you. Even if you throw, like you said, ball it up and throw it away, but at least you're not still carrying it around. You've gotten it
That's
up and
right.
out. And I love journaling so much that I created a workshop on writing through trauma, and because I see so many benefits of it. So yeah, that's another thing. But yeah.
That's
And if
awesome
I
though.
can
Mm-hmm.
say, oh,
Yes. Yeah.
um, so journaling coming from being the child of someone who believes in journaling, I never, like, I had to flip my perspective on it. I never really got the point of why she was always so big on us, like, having journals. So I kind of just did it. And then it wasn't really until I started working in the schools. And this was actually, well, before I started working in the schools, I did a summer camp and I had the kids do a journal. And it was a folder with some papers in it. And they was looking like, what? I don't want to do this. And I was like, okay, well, right. I don't want to do this. Not realizing that years later, I would use that with my students and we would have a time of like reflective journaling. And it was because, and we started with our fourth graders because I found an old journal that I had from fourth grade. And whatever was important to me at the time, okay, that was important. And to be able, and I knew that that was my space. And so to be able to tell my students, like, myself and one of my friends who I work closely with, we would go in there, we'd set the music, and we'd let them journal. We'd say, your journal, your business. So even giving that is just kind of an example of how something she instilled in me, now I'm able to pass on. So even that piece of, if you're not going to do it for yourself, maybe try and open your mind, because perhaps your kids or your students or anybody who you're around may benefit from that as well.
Yeah.
And even now I journal, not every day. I have to put it in my schedule because, again, I don't be wanting to sit down. But it's that same thing, like you were saying, Seneca, of you start writing and then next thing you know, it's like 5, 6 pages later. So it's definitely a
Hmm.
benefit. And I like that you can make it in a way that fits your personality and your style.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, and people feel guilty for not doing it every day. And I say
Yeah.
it's a discipline, not a law. Let's not
Mhm.
turn it into a
Mm,
law to where
yeah.
Mhm.
Because then I
you
feel
beating
guilty.
yourself up. Yeah, because
Mhm.
you didn't do it. So
Right.
because we're not trying to add more stress to
Right.
your mind and heart. We're
You're
trying
right.
to take it off.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I love it. I love it. So, Gabby, in the same sense, we want to ask you about yoga. So, what have been the benefits of yoga for you?
Okay. There have been so many. Like I said, I was not looking for them. But as someone who, you know, moves through anxiety and perfectionism and just, you know, moving around in life, and also being a Black woman in America, where sometimes you feel like you don't have a choice all the time, at least from my perspective, it was
Mhm.
the first benefit was to see a physical space for myself. That was just for me. Even now in the virtual space, because I practice virtually and in person, just that's step one that I have my mat. But it also has helped me like just ground and center and like really learn to listen to myself. Like,
Mm.
okay, I really do know what I'm doing. I know what's best. And if that doesn't work for me right now and it works for everybody else, I can honor that. And you say that, but I didn't necessarily believe it. So it was the first time that I was able to physically, you know, say, well, I'm gonna hold my arm this way. if Even though they say that like I'm doing something different, but I'm able to then take those same lessons off the mat.
Mm.
And I think that has been the biggest piece, is to be able to like trust yourself, learn to trust
Mhm.
yourself,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
lean on your supports. So I use in my classes a lot of props, or even if it's a blanket, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to do it on your own. You can
Mhm.
do that. Or if there's times when you are practicing with other people, listening to them and their breathing can help you kind of regulate. Like, wait, am I breathing? Okay. So the so many, but like I said, the biggest one is just to help me slow down, and I always say sit down somewhere, and so I can actually hear clearly.
Yes.
Eh,
Yes.
You know, and if I can echo that, every
Mhm.
time, as soon as we start, it's
Mhm.
like the Holy Spirit just starts speaking to me. I don't know if it's just because I'm quiet for a minute, you know, I'm quiet, but it puts me in a heart space of worship. And I just feel like worshiping God. On a clinical side, I've learned recently that they use yoga as a therapy for um, sexual abuse survivors and sexual assault survivors, because one of the first things we tend to do is dissociate from our bodies. And
Mm.
what yoga does is help you get back in tune with and in touch with your body. So it actually has helped in the healing process, believe it or not.
Mhm. I love that. I
Mm-hmm.
love that. And one of the things that you said, Gabby, which I love, is that you honor being able to choose what you do. And I think that because a
Mhm.
lot of people in our community, we don't do yoga. And part of it is our mental. It's like, I can't do no tree and stand on one leg. Like, what am I doing? Right. But, the reality is, if I am there and everyone else is doing downward dog and I want to do a different pose, then I do that. And we honor where we are. If I need to stay in a pose a little longer and people move on, it's not like a traditional class where you have to do this and then you have to do that and then you have to. And as you said, Miss Janet, it is a moment where you just start to hear God speak to you. It's transformational. It really has been in this space
Mhm.
of doing yoga again.
Yeah, I'm almost thinking about like y'all were saying, you know, when there's a lot of chaos, it's hard to hear God speak to us. And we need those times where we're able to like block out all the nonsense and just get the quiet, like one-on-one time. And this is a perfect way to do that. Um,
Mhm.
and if you're intentional about it, I think Gabby, you said it earlier, you put it in your schedule to journal, to do to do these things, like to actually intentionally do it. It actually helps to build your relationship with
Mhm.
God, which is also important. It's one of the most important things that we can do. So I appreciate all the information y'all sharing tonight. Um, so I'm looking at my questions. Should I ask this one?
Yeah.
Okay. I had to ask the wife to make sure I'm on the right page because she's the guide. So, and is that for both? Okay, okay. So
And
Gabby, I'm
and
gonna
yeah.
start with you. And then I'll start with you, Gabby. Who do you typically work with?
Okay. Um, well, I'm finding that I still am working with kids. I'm just always work with the kids. Gotta love the kids. Um, and I think in this focus right now, I've been working a lot with women.
Mm,
Kind of the moms on the go, or
Mhm.
owning a business. I just need something quick. So a lot of tips of like that, but I work with everyone. I definitely believe that yoga is for everyone, and I have a lot of partner teachers who I can work with. But right now, it seems the flow is for mostly women who need to learn or are open to learning, prioritizing self care and the kids.
I love it.
gotcha.
Mhm.
Very helpful. And Miss Janet, what about you? Who do you typically work with?
So, with my workshop, so far it has been women, only women so far who have signed up, but it has been a diverse group of women. As far as my clients, also women so far, but I, I find that they tend to be believers in Christ, and they usually have some type of church hurt
Mm,
that I'm able. Yeah, it's interesting. And I actually put that as one of my core things that I offer, core skill set that I offer, because I know that happens a lot. And my goal is for people to experience the love of God through me. So.
Mm.
gotcha. Thank you for that. It's
Mhm.
um, it's interesting because you both mentioned women, and Gabby, you mentioned women and kids, but no men. And it not that it's because the men can come. They just we just
Mhm.
don't typically, for whatever reason, we just feel some kind of way about that kind of work. But it's something that can work for women and men, for kids, just being expressive about how you're feeling about, just being in those spaces. So for all the fellas that are listening, you have two women here that are doing this great work. Don't feel like you can't be a part of it. They are working with women and kids, but it could be males too. So just a heads up, guys. Go ahead, Cindy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So you talked about who you work with. What are some things that they have said about how this work has positively impacted them? I can talk about
Mm.
firsthand, but what are some things that you have heard about your work? And Miss Janet, we'll start with you this time, and then we'll go to Gabby.
Okay, I have heard, let's see, what have I heard? That people have, first of all, and I don't know if this is mostly Black folks, because we have normalized trauma. And so
Mhm.
many of us don't even realize that we have experienced trauma. And until I define them, I give them the definition of what trauma is, and then they realize, oh, I didn't even know that was trauma that I experienced. So I hear that a lot. I also hear that they are able to identify patterns of toxicity and dysfunctional patterns as well. And usually we're focusing on one particular area, one particular goal, or one particular
Mhm.
question that they need clarity on. And once we reach that, then they usually move to some level of promotion in some area. So those are the things that I hear.
Mhm. Thank you. And
Mhm.
I love that you said you focus on a goal, because sometimes
Hmm.
people want to solve everything, but you have to start somewhere. And then when you
Mhm.
are able to move past that one goal, then you can move on to another one. So I
Exactly.
appreciate you definitely saying that. Miss Gabby.
Well, you say y'all spoke to some of the benefits because y'all are in my class, but just I think like creating a space for themselves, like for trying something new. I think I've heard just kind of like I can feel the difference when I don't go versus when I do, or I just needed that. Like I just needed a time and a space to just kind of chill for a second. And oddly enough, kind of going back to who do I typically help and work with, my first class was all Black men. Like it was my first official class when I was finishing up, and it was, to me, it was so cool because at the end everyone looked like sleep, like done. And I was like, this is amazing. So if anything, I want to help people like sleep. Like I always say at the end, like, get up if you want to. The one guy was in the corner, like, just like, nah, I'm good. And so if I can help people find rest, like, especially us, like, that was like the most beautiful sight to see, was like, we're gonna move, we're gonna do some work, but just to be like at a state of rest. So I think that's a big thing too, is a lot of people just talk about how it's just nice to just find some rest, even for an hour.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it looks like there was a question. Thank you for that, because that rest is important. Um, so where should we, well, I'll let you read that because you're a
Oh,
man.
where should we as men start as it relates to either beginning to journal or with yoga? So I'll lean to our experts. What do you recommend? Where should men start?
Well, as far as journaling, I mean, there's no difference. You start where a woman would start. Just grab a piece of paper and a pen. And I say one of the questions I like is, how am I feeling right now? Whatever that means to you. Um, just how am I feeling right now? Or another good question is, if I wasn't afraid, what would I do? And I think I got that question from Who Moved My Cheese. Remember that book a long time ago? You guys, that probably was before your time. But if I wasn't afraid, what would I do? Those are some good questions, good prompts to get them started. Or if that feels too intimidating, they can actually get a guided journal, and it will give them actual prompts. And then they can answer those questions and just start from there. So that would be my suggestion.
That's great. That's
Um,
great.
and I mean, I think for me, a suggestion would be maybe try a couple of different classes and maybe see where you feel comfortable. Maybe you feel more comfortable with a teacher that looks like you, that is a man, or maybe it doesn't matter, or maybe you want to try virtual. I had a private yoga client because they are an adolescent, and they didn't want to practice yoga in front of a bunch of other guys. Like, so we do private virtual. So I think maybe
Mhm.
just trying out some different classes and then just seeing what works. So places like Replenish is here in Columbus, and they do donation based. Nia
Yes.
Studio is just opened up, and
Yes.
they have
Yes.
diverse offerings as well. So
Yes.
maybe just dipping your toe in and see where you feel most comfortable. But there's definitely a diverse group of yoga teachers, and Black teachers, especially in this Columbus area.
Absolutely.
That's a great
And a
tip.
little shout out to Tasha out at Nia Studios. She's one of the yoga instructors there. I think they just opened. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is it's almost like trying new food. I know our youngest son is very picky, and we had to convince him to try different stuff, and he would like some of it he didn't like. But if he didn't try it, he would never know. And so, much in the same way that we try different foods, as folks in this field, if we're recommending these things to people, we're not saying it's going to 100% work, but you won't know until you try it. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, I just appreciate y'all sharing those details and putting that out there. So I know we're at the 750 mark, so I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yes, and one more comment. I'm telling you, I'm trying not to comment, but you may have to try it more than once, okay?
That's true, because when we tried yoga the first time, we were done.
When we tried for yoga the first time, first of all, we had small children,
Oh
okay?
gosh.
And so there was no peace.
Right.
We had no idea we were supposed to have a
Mm.
peaceful environment. But and then physically in different places, and so in my mind I kept saying, if this is hard, I can't do it. And when you keep saying this is hard, it's going to be hard.
It's
Our
going to be
mind
hard.
will manifest
Mm-hmm.
what
Right.
we're thinking. And so going into it with a different mindset and an open mindset, an open heart, is also very
Key.
much important and key.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we talked a little bit about the benefits and how God shows up, we are going to do just a small, we're not, I mean, we're going to participate, but Miss Gabby is going to take us through a small demonstration so that you can start to kind of get it in your spirit and think about it, try it here now in the safe space of your own home.
Mm-hmm.
And then hopefully you will want to try it more a little later. So, Miss Gabby.
Yes. And I was also going to say, to me, music is very important
Yes.
during a practice.
Yeah.
You don't always need it because sometimes you just need to hear the breath. But like I spend a lot of time on my playlist, and I've always loved music from different, areas. But if I usually work on a theme. So the playlist aligns with that theme. And so that is something that helped me because right when I first took a yoga class, I was like, I don't know what's happening. And my the next day my knee hurt and my back hurt and I don't understand. But like you said, just keep trying. But I know for me, I like a teacher that I resonate with a nice playlist.
Mm-hmm.
So
And before you start, let me say, and that's why Gabrielle is my yoga teacher,
And
because
mine.
because I can't be traumatized when I'm trying to relax. And so she's so nurturing and gentle and encouraging. And then
Mm-hmm.
at the end, she always sings this song that let me know that I am light and remind me that I am
Yeah.
light. And when I that just if I don't hear that, that something's missing. So yeah, to me it depends on you need that nurturing, I think, as well.
Yes. And for them to remind you, are you breathing? So we'll go ahead.
Yeah. Yes.
yes, um, listen. On that note, let us breathe. Um, so for the sake of time, I am going to just kind of mention these, but I have just a few books that I personally use if someone is more interested in learning about breathing. Um, this breathing book by Donna Fari and um, Dr. Gail Parker has two books, but I primarily work from this restorative yoga for ethnic and race-based stress and trauma. So if you're interested in diving deeper into some breath work, that is a piece. So we're going to just practice. I'm going to offer two different breathing options. What I love about this is you can do this anywhere and with anyone. So, you want to get the kids together, let's breathe. Or if you're hiding out in the bathroom at work and you just need to take a moment. Um, these are always some good ones. So, just some things to think about and to be mindful of when you are breathing. Um, maybe take the time to inquire. So, no judgment, but, where do I feel my breathing? Like, where's the breath in my body right now? What does that feel like? I found that those two things are kind of very grounding pieces for me because if I'm breathing very shallow up here, then I know I need to calm, bring the breath down. So Those are just two inquiries that you can have while you're breathing. So we're seated. Um, if you are seated, I mean, or you can stand, but we're seated. So just keeping the feet flat on the floor, sitting up straight, feeling the head reaching up towards the sky, and take the shoulders up and down the back. Now, the first breath we're going to do is called the 4-7-8 breath. And I love this just because we use it a lot with our students. I do it myself. It's a breath practice, but it kind of gets you to think. So if I'm like in the middle of something, but I still want to move, I really like this. So basically, you're going to breathe in for 4. You're going to hold for 7 and breathe out for 8. So you're going to breathe in for 4, hold your breath for 7, and breathe out through the mouth. So breathe in through the nose, hold for 7, and breathe out through the mouth for 8. And this is something that you might be done at 3. That's okay. The more you practice, the longer your count can be. So sitting up straight, shoulders up and down the back. Let's just breathe in through the nose and exhale, let it go. Let's do one more just to clear it out, shake it out. Breathe in through the nose and exhale through the mouth. Good. All right, and I'm going to give us a 5, 6, 7, 8, and we'll start our 4, 7, 8. And 5, 6, 7, 8. Breathe in for 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out for 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Breathe in and exhale. Let it go. Good. Let's take that one more time. Move, wiggle if you need to shake it out. And then coming back to center. Maybe you choose a soft gaze. Maybe you choose to close your eyes or not. Let's breathe in at 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll go 5, 6, 7. Let's go. Breathe in for 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out for 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Breathe in through the nose. Exhale, let it go. Beautiful. All right. And the last one I suggest, I see the time here, is a mindful minute. Set your timer for a minute and just breathe and see what you notice before and see what you notice after.
All right. Did you want to do the mindful minute or you?
Oh, do we have time?
Sure, we can.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to set my timer here. So the beauty of this is that, things can get awkward. It can get weird for a second, a minute of silence. And I love doing this in the classroom because the kids, they're like, so, and for me, this was something that I had to move through. So all you're going to do is you're going to breathe in and out for 1 minute. And if you'd like to, you can count the breaths that you take. 1 inhale and 1 exhale equals 1 breath. And see how many times you breathe in a minute. All right, so sitting up straight again, shoulders down the back, feet on the floor. You're going to breathe in through your nose and out through your nose this time. And let's begin. Doing good. 30 seconds. And breathe in and exhale. Let it go.
Thank you for your mindful moment, for our mindful moment. This was great and right what was needed at 8 o'clock in the evening after a long day. Thank you for being here with us and just for this beautiful conversation about the benefits of journaling as well as yoga and breathing and the importance of breathing.
Yes, yes, yes. And I want to make sure that Mike, do you want to put the flyer up now as we're okay? Let's go
Yes.
ahead and show the flyer with the great information. Folks that are on the call with us, you may want to take a picture of the flyer. But this is a great program that's coming up this Saturday, January 22nd, from 2 to 4 for $20. It's a virtual gathering, reconnecting to self. And so take a look at the flyer, take a picture. This might be a great opportunity to come out and hang out with Miss Gabby and Miss Janet just to get some more of what we learned about tonight.
We do want to, it is for women, correct? I want to make sure that we make that distinction. It is this one, this virtual gathering on
This
Saturday.
time.
Okay.
Yes.
This
Fellas,
time.
we
This
didn't
one,
forget you,
yes.
but this time.
This time. And so hopefully you were able to capture and take a picture and that you will be there on Saturday. I will be and excited to be there. And we just thank you again. We thank Dr. and Dr. Wise, as we always do every month, for making mental health a priority. It is so very important for us to nurture ourselves and our spirit, our minds, our bodies. And so thank you for given us a platform to do that.
Yep. Thank you both for allowing us to do that. And then Gabby and Miss Janet, thank you for taking your time out this evening and sharing all this great information. Again, it's something that I know in therapy we talk about quite often as one of those strategies, one of those tool belt options, whether it's journaling, yoga, just trying something new and seeing if it works. And it allows folks to be expressive and get that stuff that's inside out, which allows them to feel better. It doesn't get rid of the problems, but it does allow you to feel better and allows you to deal with the situation that you're going through better than if you wouldn't have had those tools in the first place. So thank you for sharing those benefits with us and all that stuff. So we really appreciate you both being here tonight.
Yes, and of course for Mr. Mike, who's in the background, making sure that all these things are working together. So thank you all for joining us this evening. Yes. And
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Back in
So
February.
happy to meet you both.
Yes.
Thank you.
You. Likewise.